All right. I'm going to kick off with Tom Wood from Organison because he does have a little bit to share about his company and what it has to offer to us. But this is a chance for us to visit. I've got some questions prepared. I am going to, because I'm old and sometimes I forget names. I know these guys are unforgettable, but I'm just going to go across, and I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves and maybe share something about themselves that we don't know. And to make this easy, I'm here at 6'4" and 230 pounds. I don't know anything about football. When I was a little kid and it was time to learn about sports, I came home and I was excited, and it was the 80s, and I said, I want to do this, and my dad said, it's a pretty long walk to town. So I learned a lot about farming, but not much about football. So there's something you all don't know about me. Maybe it's not too late to learn, but I'll just start with Lance. We'll go across, and then when we get to Tom, I do want him to share a little bit about Organison, and then we'll get started with some more questions.
Oh boy, I wasn't prepared for the panel this morning. I'm supposed to be Lance Gunderson. Somebody stole my name and put it on their name tag this morning, so we should get them up here. Really weird last name. Gunderson? It is. Norwegian.
That's an O-N. They take
O-N. Norwegian.
What's the non-E-N?
Yeah. Something you don't know about me.
Well, you're Norwegian.
I'm Norwegian.
There we go.
There you go. That works.
Next question.
Have y'all ever noticed how Superman never sits with the peasants? I just wanted y'all to see that if you hadn't.
My name's David Kleinschmidt. I'm a recovering purist addict.
No. You got to reveal something about yourself.
Listen, after 2 hours, I don't really know anything I haven't told y'all yet, so I'm going to pass it to Jerry.
Used to raise goats.
Yeah?
Well, let's see. Things you don't know about me.
Just hold it closer.
Oh, okay. That better? Okay. Let's see. One of the things that maybe most of you don't know, actually, I'd have a Nobel Prize.
Really?
I'm part of the IPCC panel that received the Nobel Prize for the climate impacts on agriculture.
I'm Roy Faltzgraff, and I most definitely do not have a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, we're working on that for you.
The best thing I ever did for my farming career was not to have a degree in anything related to agriculture.
I'm Tom Wood. That's my bio in the program. I didn't know that I was writing a bio for the program when I turned that in to our advertising company. I farm in the other I state. For those of you that didn't know, there's actually 4 of us that start with an I. I'm in that other one out west, Idaho. So I feel left out sometimes, and everybody starts talking about the corn and beans in the I states, because we don't grow corn where I'm at, and it's actually against the law to grow soybeans. I got kind of on a soil health journey myself, completely inadvertent. You can read a lot of that in the bio if you're that interested in it. But I started playing with products because I didn't know where to start, like systems approach, soil health stuff. That still doesn't really exist in my neighborhood the way it does out here in the Midwest. And it's one of the reasons I'm so grateful I get the opportunity to travel around and kind of open my own awareness with this stuff. But I stumbled onto the chitosan technology completely by accident. I was researching Fusarium graminearum and Fusarium culmorum, which, if you don't know, that is responsible for the vomitoxin infection in cereal grains. One of those is responsible for the dry rot infection in potatoes. And if any of you are wondering, all the stereotypes about Idaho are true. Come out the first week of if you want to smell actinomycetes, come to Idaho the first week of October and drive around, because we just aerosol the entire southern part of the state. One night, middle of the night, I came across a research report, a white paper, ncbi.com, that was talking about this compound chitosan, how effective it was against these fusariums. So the next couple of days, I called everybody that I knew that I thought might know something about this, and nobody knew anything about this. And I just kept going digging. 2015 brought some products to my own farm in Idaho to try. We saw nothing out of those. 2016, if I wasn't a believer in divine intervention prior to this company, I certainly can't deny it now. My phone number wound up in the hands of the CEO of Organisan, and he called me at home one night at 8 o'clock, and we talked till about midnight. He forwarded me a bunch more research papers. We brought that product to the farm in 2016. The company's was started in the southeast, primarily based out there. They didn't have a lot of exposure in the west, so my brother and I kind of went to work figuring this out, and the responses were, it was phenomenal. 1 pint per acre broadcast sprayed before we planted that spring. We had 4 test plots we had split out. We had on the first one a 7 bushel to the acre increase. This was on malt barley for Anheuser-Busch. The next field was a 19 bushel to the acre increase, an 18 bushel to the acre increase, and a 21 bushel to the acre increase. And I wish I could tell you that it happens that way every time in every crop across the board, but we all know that I'd be lying. So that's been part of the journey here, is figuring out how to help, where to help, what to do, how to do. They approached me in 2018, asked me if I wanted a job, told them no, and they came back and said please that time, and I was really ready. Just felt like the next step, a next chapter, and one thing to another, and here we are.
Very good. I've got a few questions that we've put together to ask these guys, but we want to hear from you too. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to ask a couple of them and then go to the audience and then come back. So my next question for everyone, what is one thing you've changed your mind about along your journey in agriculture? One thing you've changed your mind about along your journey in agriculture.
I don't know if there is one thing.
You only got to pick one, your favorite. You can do 2.
I mean, coming from the ag retail sector and then going into the whole soil health thing and then coming back and seeing that, going back to don't be a purist, right? I guess that'd be the biggest one, is like, you keep all the tools in your toolbox. You're going to need them at some time. It's kind of like if I'm at home and I've got a level, but I'm working on a carburetor, well, I'm not going to use a level, but if I'm hanging drywall, I might need it, right? So keep all the tools in your toolbox. That's the biggest thing I've learned.
I was going to say, this might make some people mad, but I was kind of on the same journey. Actually, me and you might have walked the same journey there for a couple of weeks, a month or two. And when I started looking at soil health and I heard speakers that had names and notoriety, and they're saying, hey, year 1, just quit using herbicides, quit using any fertilizer, you'll grow a great crop. And there's been so many failures from that purist mentality, and that's why I polled the audience when I was speaking about how many of you think you could actually eliminate everything from your farm. Because even if you look at organic still has amendments. And I think that same philosophy as David's had in his journey is, keep the tools in the toolbox, use them when necessary, and besides that, try to make money.
Probably the one thing that I've learned in all of this is that we need to park most of the science aside and really begin to think about a much more of an ecological approach of how all of these things begin to fit together, because scientists really don't want to ever handle the interaction effects. But in reality, everything that we talk about is all interactions, and it's no longer a simple little main effect in all of this. And so I've had to readjust all of my thinking and even think about how we even look at some of the scientific background in terms of all of this, and cast most of it aside and think differently about how the system works.
Borrowing his. I guess the one thing for me is what happens beyond the farm once we produce a crop, and that there's a lot more markets out there in a lot of places we never imagined. And when I first started doing this in 2017, I had the same attitude as everybody else, is there's not enough markets for what I raise. And now it's the opposite. I can't raise enough for all the markets.
For me, I guess the kind of the realization I came to, and it was really disappointing for me because of the background that I grew up in, but finally came to the realization that chemistry isn't going to save us, and big chemistry really isn't that interested in helping us. They're going to leave just enough dollars in your wallet to make sure you come back next year, but they're going to grab as many as they can, and it was, kind of a hard pill for me to swallow for a while.
I haven't learned a damn thing. No, it's not because I know it all. It's because I know nothing. I'm the one person up here that doesn't farm at all. So for me, the biggest eye opener for me was I got to hear stories from all the producers, and what I learned is that basically everything you're gonna do is very likely going to be wrong if you put it inside of a box, right? If you try to define it and categorize it and wrap it into a box, because too much of what you do is not in your control, right? And I was telling somebody earlier today, I said, it's like trying to figure out how to bowl, but do it with bumpers. Manage with bumpers instead of trying to throw the perfect ball every single time, because you never know. Mother Nature likes to change the weight of the ball, likes to change the oil pattern every year. Now, my business partner is a bowler, so I can talk about these things because he always tells me about it. But that's what I've really tried to learn, because as a scientist, I was saying we need to answer every question, right? It's science. We got to answer all these questions, and we got to give you a definitive answer. Well, I hate to tell you this, 99% of the time you're going to be wrong. But if you just keep trying, that's where you learn. And that's all we're really all up here trying to do.
I have a question, kind of segue on that I had written down here, but I mean, my travels around, I deal with kind of bridging between guys who are just, full bore way they've always done it and want to try going kind of this direction. And one of the questions that I get asked quite frequently or comes up is, where do we start? Like, you look at this, you come to one of these seminars, and it's just overwhelming. Like, do we just go home and plant cereal rye? Do we soil till? Like, where? So I'm kind of curious to hear from everybody who's much further down this journey than I am. What have your steps been? What's step number one? Where's the stepping off point? Where do you feel like you begin here?
I'm not sure I started yet.
I know that feeling.
I mean, I've done a bunch of different stuff, but I still don't know what the right answer is. And every year, they throw something different at me. To me, the biggest thing was where I started at a conference in Burlington, Colorado, the no-till conference there, and sat in on a couple sessions. One of them, the individual sitting at the other end of the stage, and it answered a question that my dad and I had been asking for years. And it suddenly came to light of, oh, that's why we have protein and the neighbors don't. It's because we have more diversity in our cropping. And that was kind of that first realization that we can make a difference with what we raise to the soil. And then it was like, okay, what can we do next?
Like Lance, I don't farm either. I just work on people's farms. Ask Roy about all the equipment I stuff on his farm. But the part of this in the starting process is picking the brains of some of the other people that are on the stage up here, listening to them, listening to you all. That's how I begin to put together some of the weird thoughts that I have in terms of just how things begin to work. It's trying to reflect your experiences and everything else. So, and probably the best thing in terms of the start is just to start. Do something that's different and observe. And we don't spend enough time really observing out there. Russell showed some nice pictures of taking a spade to the field and digging it up and looking at it and spending time looking at that crop and everything else. As one of my major professors clear back a long time ago has built a lot of crop models, and he says, I built my crop models by spending time in the field watching how a plant grew. Not figuring out the mathematical equations, but figuring out just as how plants begin to grow and everything else, now putting that down in a mathematical form.
Let's see how many people's on their journey. How many of you in here grew a crop in 2024? How many of you had a failure? All right, you're on your way.
Mic drop. I think the first step when you come to these conferences like this is look around at your table and the conversations you've had out in the hallway and everything else is developing kind of a peer network of like-minded people. Because if you go back home, you might be on an island, it kind of feels like, and you're starting out and you're looking at planting a cover crop, whether that's cereal, rye, or oats and radish, or whatever else, but all your neighbors going to look at you like you're crazy. Did you not see all this stuff on Facebook where people had less yield and blah, 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 whatever, right? So developing that peer network of kind of a support group locally and within the people that you meet at these conferences that can really help you. And then, you know, again, talking about soil health, whatever, is kind of having a baseline, using the right soil test and actually baselining kind of where you're at and then start to build onto that. Otherwise, you're just throwing darts at the wall blindfolded and hoping you hit something. And Jerry mentioned something there about observation. I think it was Albrecht that maybe said, you know, observe nature and study the books and observe nature. And when the two don't align, throw the books away. And there's a lot of truth to that when you start looking at this as a complex system that we talked about yesterday as well.
For me, I generally take a little different approach because, again, I'm not farming. But my approach to this is I say you need to change your mindset. And by change your mindset, we hear that a lot. But what I say is most of us are farming to survive rather than farming to thrive. Now, the whole system has been set up that way, right? You go borrow money to operate your farm. The bank says you got 12 months to pay it back, right? That's survival. That's not thriving. So what I tell somebody to do is I said, you need to sit down and think beyond your 12-month goal. Figure out what it is you want your farm to be. 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. What is your goal? Because if you don't have a goal and you just say, well, I'm just planting cover crops, plant cover crops. Have a goal because that'll break those chains and allow you to thrive rather than survive. And if you start thinking that way, I think it makes it a little easier to find some clarity and some direction on what it is you want to do, and then you go find those people that are sitting up here that can help you achieve those goals.
I just had a light bulb moment. Now I understand why I plant trees and want all my gates to swing right, as that is, in my own way, a vision of where I want my farm in the next 5 years, which, again, is easier for me as a cow guy than what a lot of you deal with on row crop operations. I want to throw this at the audience just a little bit. What is something you learned in the last 3 days that you didn't know before you came to the conference? And if you don't want to answer, I'll turn it over to these guys, but I'd like to hear from you. And don't all go at once. How fast you can change your soil. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah. Someone raised their hand. I didn't see. There's one back. Okay, way back.
Okay, in the last 3 days, I learned a lot about the exciting soil technology. So that's so cool. So maybe next year I'll come here again to learn a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So, I'm deaf. About the soil and what we can do with it, if I heard that right. Is that a new technology as well? Yeah, combination of that. I'm going to pass it to you guys. What is something, I mean, I kind of knew about Sunny Drop soda before this, but I learned a little bit more as time went on, but is that what it's called? Sundrop.
Sundrop and Old Crow was kind of my college whiskey drink.
Wow, that's like the original Red Bull and vodka, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, there ain't nothing exciting about Old Crow.
The mix is really good at 16 with Southern Comfort.
There you go. You know, I always learn something from every time I listen to Russell, I pick something else up. And every time I listen to Lance, I pick something else up. And I apologize. I wasn't up here for a lot of the presentations. I listened a little bit of Jerry's, and I picked some stuff up from there. I don't know. There's a lot to absorb kind of into it, but there's little things I can pick up from here and there that, hey, I need to add sun drop into my mix or citric acid and things like that. So
I think the thing that I learn the most when I come to these conferences is just 10 years ago, how many of you, by show of hands, ever saw anything soil health related in a magazine? No. You saw one?
I was studying soil health.
Oh. but I mean, everybody always asks, like, why don't farmers change? One is policy. We have a lot of policy against us in how we operate our farm and staying in a conventional type system. Two, y'all are creatures of habit. You've got to take away the generational burden. I don't have that. I don't have that stress. The farmers I talk to that are 5th, 6th, 7th generation, they don't ever want to be known as the family member that lost the family farm. But at the same time, they're chipping away at that generational wealth and equity just to maintain the status quo. So my kind of challenge to everybody that stayed here is pick 10% of your acres and do something different. I don't care if it's a Haney test, a single species cover crop, a multi-blend cover crop, a foliar pass, whatever it may be. But if you can't dedicate 10%, and you got to take that within scale. If you're farming 15,000 acres in here, you don't have to do it that much. But just say 100, 200 acres. Try at least one thing new. The reason I ask you if you failed at something, that's the best way to learn. And you have to learn how to fail in a way that doesn't financially ruin the farm.
Probably the best thing is some of the in-depth conversations I have with people like Ted and Blake and Roy and everything. Roy and I do spend a lot of time standing in the field observing and talking about different things out there. But a lot of that has been the questions that you all have asked that have made me come back and begin to think about how these pieces fit together. I always get a lot from Russell's talks because I wonder how that's really interacting in this whole soil plant atmosphere continuum as I look at different pieces of that. So I always pick up little nuggets, spend enough time in windshield mode at times so I can mull some of this over and everything. And that's where we've got to figure out what questions to get asked. And then how do we go about even determining, how do we even measure the response in either the soil or the plant that can put some of the metrics around that so we can write those articles going into the popular magazines.
I've been thinking about this, and I don't think I know what I learned until the middle of this next summer. And something pops up, and then it's like, oh yeah, somebody mentioned, this little thing was mentioned, and that might be where my problem is. And so I'm not sure what the big piece is until that moment pops up where it actually is suddenly applicable to what I'm doing.
Well, I've appreciated the mindset here, and especially with some of the presentations with Russell did whatnot, that there is a place for applications of products within this system. Because the purist thing again, as I talk to people around, that they think that you go plant a cover crop and you don't have to buy fertilizer anymore. It takes care of everything. It fixes everything for you. So it's been kind of nice to kind of see how the inputs are still being implemented in this program in a beneficial way. That we're still promoting and moving the soil health in the right direction. That's one of the big things that stops a lot of this from catching on or having any traction at all in my neighborhood, because my context is far closer to Roy's than anybody else in this room here. I'm in a 12-inch rainfall area. I live at 5,000 feet elevation, and I farm up to 6,000 feet elevation. And I've really appreciated, I've kind of followed Roy here for a few years with had the courage to stand up and say that cover crops don't work for him. But within that context, he figured out how to make this work with crop rotation. So I really appreciate that. But on the other hand, you keep me up at night a lot. And it really, I have a little animosity for you. My wife's really scared that I'm going to come home and try to figure out how we're going to buy a stripper header now to put on the combine we can't afford. But yeah, and this all kind of fits within your context too. Like one size, I asked Jimmy Emmons one time, I get really tired of everybody just telling me you plant cereal rye. I'm like, not in my neighborhood, you don't. And I asked Jimmy Emmons one time, he's the only other wheat grower that I've ever come across about. I'm like, how do you manage this? And he says, well, number one, you don't let it go to seed, and number two, you quit going to the coffee shop.
So the thing I take away from a conference, how many of you have been to other soil health conferences? In this state, out of this state? You know, and you always hear these arguments that, well, that'll work there, it won't work here. So the biggest thing I've learned in the last 10 years is that I've spoken at about, 300 of these, and they're not all right here in Cedar Falls, Iowa. It's funny. You go to 50 different, Russell, how many countries have you been to? 11 different countries, how many states? 46. That argument, it'll work there, it won't work here, just completely goes out the window because we're talking about it everywhere. And
Determining factor if it works.
yeah, what's that?
Does the sun shine on your land?
Yeah, does the sun shine on your land? It'll work. But that's something to think about because you hear growers from all over the country, anywhere you go. I go to Oregon, I've been down to Florida, I'll be in North Carolina, you go to Maine. The how is different, but it works, right? And Roy gave us a great example that his how is not growing cover crops. And Tom sure as hell ain't gonna plant cereal rye, right? So that's the thing I always walk away of this conference. I'm just amazed at hearing people's stories because it reassures me that it will work.
I've got a couple left in my hip pocket, but Tom, do you have any more questions written down, or do you want me to turn this to the audience? What would you like me to do?
I'm kind of curious here too. I just want, kind of for an awareness thing, that sometimes we feel like we're all in this boat all on our own going down here, that you walk away from the government and all this stuff, whatever, and there is some help available for getting going on this. We have I don't know if this is nationwide, I don't know, but a program that we've got kind of kicked off in Idaho with the NRCS. It's section 336 now. They moved it from an 800. I think it's 336 for compost, because we have this weird situation. All the dairy industry in southern Idaho, we all are moving our hay down there, and these guys literally are choking on manure at this point. Management plans are tapped like they can't. So with this section 336, if the compost meets certain specifications, the government will kick in now to help pay. I think it's, if I remember right, it's $80 an acre or 80 a ton. I forget now the.
Yeah, each state's different.
So it's a national program.
Yep.
It is a national program through NRCS, but it's state dependent. So like the state of Arkansas, Keith has already left, but when we were there a couple weeks ago, like I think Arkansas is paying $160 an acre to spread compost and reduce your synthetic use. And so it's based on each state soil content. It's about like cover crops. Like cover crops are $340. I just know that, but it may pay. You know what cover crops pay in Colorado?
No, I don't do cover crops.
Well, I know you don't, but North Carolina, a single species cover crop pays $70 an acre. You do a 5-way soil health mix, and you're a first-generation farmer, it pays almost $105 an acre. But you go to South Carolina, and that may change by $20-30 an acre, depending on how the state con sets up. But essentially, anybody can go on the NRCS website. You can look up, it's under EQIP, and it'll have your state and your payment schedule for each one.
Nice. So yeah, just something to keep in mind, that you're not necessarily, this isn't right out of your pocket. There is some help available. Like this is catching enough attention that there is some help available sometimes.
Okay, I'm going to take advantage now.
Seth,
yeah.
real quick.
Oh.
Just to let you know, I think there is an EQIP one for a stripper header.
Oh.
Equip for strippers. You heard them right. Yep. Okay. The government covers everything. You know, on that little bit of levity, who's got questions in the audience? I've got two in my pocket to wrap up with, but we're not there yet. Who's got questions out here? And I'm going to bring the mic to you if it's okay. Raise your hand high so I can, there we go.
I don't know if it's a question as much as a statement. I haven't been to a lot of conferences, but we've been to a few. This is the first conference I've been to that every speaker hasn't said the same exact thing, and this is exactly what you have to do, and just take it to your farm and it's going to work. That was very refreshing to actually hear, yeah, maybe this, maybe not, and then the next speaker gets up, yeah, no, this, not this, and try it on your farm, and don't be a purist, and it was very refreshing to actually have that kind of a conference.
You need to stick around when Russell and I do sensitivity training. Who else has questions? Looking. Okay.
Thanks, everybody. It's been a great conference, great speakers. I'd like to thank Liz and Russell for everything, and even Seth has done a good job. You know, it's kind of mind-boggling. I'm a policy geek, and I've been wrestling with the Farm Bill for the last couple years, and they keep kicking the can down the road. But pretend this microphone is a magic wand, and you can do anything you want with the Farm Bill. One thing you can change in the Farm Bill. What would it be?
So, what's your name? Yeah. Jason? Bach. Okay. So you just talked about people having differing opinions, correct? I respect the hell out of Jerry, but mine and Jerry's opinions are very much different. He talked the first day, and you said we should get rid of subsidies and we should get rid of crop insurance and stuff like that. Sorry, I was waiting for the hives to break out.
Yeah, they're starting to appear.
Yeah. I do agree with him to a certain point, but as a farmer, I see a problem in that. Here's the problem. First generation, 100% of my operating line for the first 7 years was by a bank. I couldn't get an operating line without them having the safety net of me having crop insurance. That was the whole premise behind it, is we're not going to give you money unless you carry crop insurance and put us as first payout. So we have a differing opinion there. The other thing that I want to see changed in crop insurance, because I am first generation, is who knows what county T yield is on crop insurance? Do you know what that is? Okay. So I told you, if you look at USDA, it said our county average was 100 to 125 every year. Well, RMA did this great thing where they said, well, we're going to screw all the beginning farmers and we're going to put a T yield of 93 bushels. So then I got 75% coverage of that. So it took me $500 an acre to grow corn then. This is a while back. And my crop insurance only covered me for like, I don't know, $200 and some dollars. So I'm risking $300 an acre to just start farming. The one thing I want to see changed in the Farm Bill, and there will be people that take advantage of this, there always is, but if you're a beginning farmer, you should get 3 years of 150% of the county T yield as a beginning farmer. And then you can build some APH and then add the other 7 years in because they do a 10-year average. I think the last time I heard, the original Farm Bill was 1928, and about 70% of it has not changed since that time. And that's a huge issue. But yes, there's tons of things in there. We could be here all day. On corn?
We'll take it.
You farm in the
Farm next to Roy?
No, they're just cold. We're just dry. Actually, one thing that most people probably don't know about me is I do a lot of policy work. There's some great pictures out of me cornering Tom Vilsack, and you should have seen his security guys crawling the wall when I reach inside my jacket to show him my cell phone and my agrivoltaic system on our farm. But my thing is around crop insurance. Half of what we raise is not insurable. They're like, oh, it's covered under NAP. And I succeeded in getting everybody in my county office fired because they weren't following the NAP rules. Because there is actually a list of approved crops for the non-approved or non-assurable crops, which doesn't make any sense. But around that is we need to have crop insurance coverage that covers unusual crops. We can't just be covering the commodity crops. And really, I think we should almost penalize the commodity crops or base something around the farming methods. If someone is being regenerative, is raising cover crops or adding diversity into their system, there needs to be support for that because there's the legacy piece that's been talked about, and the one thing is the willingness for someone to take risk is actually set in their psyche by the age of 8. If they see their parents taking risks, they will learn that taking risks it could be a good thing. And we have so many kids that are coming back to the farm that dad never took a risk because he was afraid to lose it. So then the kids aren't willing to take risks. And so we're stuck into this mindset. And we need to have support to support people innovating and changing and diversifying. And that can really be helped through crop insurance.
I just sort of had a quick thought on this, that there's not anything that I necessarily want to see put in a farm bill, so much as some things that worry me that I don't want to see put in. That with there were some conversations I heard, some of we've had here about with the new administration coming in, what's this going to do for this type of ag production? Is there going to be a better value to this, that, the other? Are they going to get some rules, some laws, some whatever put in here? And personally, I don't want to see that. I don't want anybody to throw anything at me when I say this, but especially in this part of the world. But let me rephrase that. In my opinion, the ethanol industry has done a horrible, horrible job of creating demand. The fact that they relied on legislation to force this onto the consumer did nothing to bolster any warm, fuzzy feelings for anybody towards the entire industry. And I don't want to see something put in like that that's going to force people into regenerative products or regenerative, positions like that, because that's just, it needs to come from the demand side, not from a legislative side, in my opinion.
Before you think that I just want to scrap everything out there, well, actually I do, but
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
no, it's actually it's a good question from the standpoint that I do believe that some of our government programs stifle innovation.
Yep.
They stifle ingenuity, and I think that what we really need to have is a farm program that doesn't reward the status quo, but actually helps people that want to change to do it more quickly. I mean, I think everything you've heard is that maybe we force people into a certain mindset about how we grow corn and beans, how we grow other crops out there. All those other pieces I think have to look at. I've been long an advocate, and it gets me in trouble, of even crop insurance, that crop insurance should be based on a risk profile, just like your auto insurance. If you wreck your car 3 times, what's your premium? If you have teenage drivers and they've wrecked your car, what's your premium? But same thing in terms of production. If you're not enhancing the soil and reducing runoff and things like this, I really believe you ought to be paying a higher insurance premium because you're a much more risky producer than is somebody that's doing it right. And I think but RMA says, well, that's just too complex to do. No, it's not too complex. They just don't want to do it. And so I think that there are things that we need to advocate for change within the system, but we've got to help agriculture survive to overcome some of the risk profiles that we can't control. So,
More payouts, more premium.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's that so much in the crop or the farm bill or whatever, but y'all ever seen the music video by John Mellencamp, The Crow? Right? And talking about we don't need another payout. We don't need another loan. We need better markets. And it seems like since the subsidies for ethanol, which, how many of you, let me ask you this question real quick. How many of you guys are netting more dollars today than you were 20 or 30 years ago? We're grossing more, but our nets are probably actually less. And unfortunately, too many farmers are living on the gross and not on the net. Net's what you take home. Net's what you live on, right? And yet we're sitting here living on the gross because we've got a crappy CPA that is not in our camp telling us we need to go and buy a new tractor to avoid taxes, and yet our interest rate on that new tractor, because we can't pay cash for it, is more than our tax bill would have been, right? So there's a whole big issue right there that we could open up a can of worms on. Go back to this subsidy thing. For ethanol, isn't ethanol a great fuel? Jerry? Jerry says no.
It is for carburetor sales.
It is for carburetor sales.
But for fuel, it's not.
It's not that great, right? If we look across the country, it is corn, bean, corn, bean, corn, bean. Our competition is our neighbor growing the same exact thing. If I was in HVAC and I had 5 other competitions in the city here of HVAC that's installing heating and air, I'm going to look for how can I be a little different. Maybe I'll be specialist in geothermal or something like that. But our market opportunities are horrible in the countryside because the subsidies for corn and soybeans for ethanol and biofuels has driven the production of corn and soybeans only. Like, it's hard to sell. We could raise sunflowers. We could raise milo. We could raise wheat, canola. We could raise a lot of different things in Illinois and here in Iowa, but yet we only raise 2 crops. And our markets dictate what crops we can raise, and our retailers basically selling that. And let's be honest here, the retailers and everybody that's selling you something, they're making more dollars per margin on a per acre basis than what the farmer is. And that's a problem. Farming the farmer. So I don't know if it's something in the farm bill. I don't think we need another program. I don't think we need another bailout. I don't think we need another subsidy. Sometimes I think government just needs to get out of farming.
I sat down with a buddy of mine and we were talking about Farm Bill, and we were looking at what the budget of the Farm Bill that actually goes to the farmer. And we took that number and we divided it by the number of farmers, and it's $100,000 or thereabouts per farmer. Just cut us all a check for $100,000 and be done with it. And if you use that money to implement better practices and grow better crops, well, you got it. If you take that money and go to Vegas, well, there you had it. Makes it simple.
I don't really have anything that important to add, but all this talk about policy kind of got me thinking of something. I think the hotel has a policy that I was supposed to check out of my room 2 hours ago. So Liz Haney, if you're around, you might want to let them know. Please don't throw my stuff away. It's not insured. Thank you. Room 426, just let them know. Appreciate it.
Don't put it in her truck.
Yeah.
Let's take another question from the audience if anyone's got one. I'm looking. Feel like an auctioneer calling bids. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Lance Gunderson. If you could try to tell folks in your county to do one thing and stop pushing the easy button with farming and relying on the same thing that they've always done where they don't have to think about a new system, what would you tell them?
Look at for me, it's the nutrition. I try to tell guys all the time, your first step's to take control of your own agronomy. Go pull your own soil tests. Find a lab that you work with, that you can work with, that will explain stuff to you, that this makes sense to you, but get control of your own agronomy. You don't think that, hey, there happens to be one down here at the end. He seems to be looking for business, so. That's one of the biggest problems I see, though, because for where I'm at, the industry is potatoes, and there's a lot of money involved there. There is several big retailers there. Everybody has an extra salesman. I don't even say agronomist anymore. I've realized that I actually know very few agronomists around the country. I know a lot of salesmen, but they all have one extra salesman on the payroll, and they're all fighting for the same pie, and they keep trying to concentrate, and you're trying to pull. So they make all of these deals that, hey, I'll come do your soil samples for you. If you just buy your fertilizer from me, I'll pull your petioles this summer. I'll do this, I'll do that. And as farmers, we all have enough going on. Most of us, you're more than happy. If somebody wants to take something off your shoulders, off your plate, you're more than happy to get rid of some of that workload, that stress load. But everything comes at a cost, at a price. And when farmers say, I don't have time, I can't do that. Well, if you figured up, if you had somebody to go do your own petioles, tissue, sap, whatever, I really, the sap stuff has been revolutionary in what I've learned around here. But stuff like that, that's where it needs to, that would be the first step in my neighborhood. When I ask the first step is get control of your own agronomy. Don't hand it off to somebody and trust that they have your best interest in mind.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah. Who in here spreads fertilizer? Okay. How many of you are willing to spend $1.50 an acre and save 40? Let me introduce you to Lance Gunderson.
That's that guy.
That's that guy. Or, I mean, she may do it too. But
She grows better hair.
I'll tell you what happened is
I told her earlier it's the prettiest I've ever looked.
the first year I got asked to speak in multiple locations was 2015, and we pull our own soil samples. The most money, do the $100 an hour jobs and let somebody else do the $10 an hour jobs. Well, maybe 20 now with economics. But we always pull our own soil samples, and we always do our own fertilizer recommendations. And I do still get his, and we tweak them, just like he talked about. Like, we know where our numbers are now. But in 15, I only got about half of my acreage sampled, and I called the local co-op, and I said, I couldn't get across my acres. Will you go sample them? Well, they went ahead and sampled the half of the acres that I had already sampled, and then they sent me the fertilizer recommendations. We're only farming like 500-600 acres at this point, and the price difference between what I got from him and what I got from the local co-op on half of the acres was about $48,000. That's the price difference, was about 48 grand. And you can read about any magazine article we've been in since, and I always tell people the most important thing you can do is your own agronomy work, because you should never buy fertilizer from the person who made your recommendations. And if you'll do that when you leave, if you want to know where to start, that will make you money in 2025. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump line.
You're fine. I already mentioned that what started me down this journey was working with Lance and listening to what Lance has to say. So, he's well aware that I truly appreciate what his lab does, and he's got some good people working for him. So, first thing I would tell my neighbors is there's a lot more markets out there than what you realize, and don't believe that the only market that's local is where you've been selling. When I started this journey 7 years ago, everything was going to the commodities, and that's where I thought it was. I've been driving past one of our markets now for my entire life and never realized it was a market until about 6 years ago. It's a bean company. We didn't raise dry beans, and so they were there. I knew they were there. I knew people that worked there. I never saw them as a market. And one day it dawned on me that I could raise dry beans and I could deliver it right there, and it's 20 miles from home. There's a lot more markets out there. You just have to take the blinders off, and sometimes those markets look way different than any market you ever imagined. Our latest market that we stumbled into is working with mushroom growers, and they use grain to produce their spawn on. And I tell you what, it makes you feel really good when you get an Instagram post of one of those growers saying, this is the best grain I've ever used. And you get 15 new followers in the next couple hours. And they're paying a premium price for our grain because they value it. And in a million years, I would have never imagined that mushroom growers would be somebody that is going to depend upon our farm. They don't buy a lot, but they value what they're getting. But there's a lot of markets out there. You just have to let those blinders come off and be willing to learn a little bit.
I think the biggest thing in the nutshell is to ask questions. Things you don't understand or people and search out people. I think Russell is probably the epitome of asking questions, asking hard questions about all of this. How does this work and why don't we do things differently? I think that becomes part of this. Find somebody you can trust and ask that question to.
I soil sample, and they just burst my bubble. No, I'm just kidding with you.
Do you make fertilizer recommendations?
Yeah, and I don't sell products.
I was going to say, do you sell the fertilizer?
But I don't sell products, and it all just varies on everybody's context like that, so that's different. But I'm going to tell you, when I left retail, I went down this path of a purist approach, really. And, like, guys, everybody needs to plant a cover crop. You need to be cutting back. You need to do this stuff. And it was a good thing I was single then because I could live off ramen noodles and bologna. Fried bologna is actually really good with white bread. I digress. But where I was going with this is when I look out across the country, community or whatever, especially in Illinois, we all talk about the hypoxia zone, the Gulf of Mexico, and I really don't care about what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico when my own reservoirs in my local area are filling in, silting in. They only had a 30, 40-year lifespan, and those reservoirs are silting in with soil, and the phosphorus levels are really high, nitrate levels are really high. That's affecting my community, and that's affecting the drinking water right here, right now. And so it's costing more taxpayer dollars in my community, in my county, to either dredge out those lakes or completely dig a new one or have a new water treatment facility and everything else. So I look at going back to the soil testing, and one, all soil tests are wrong, some are useful. It just depends on how you use them. But managing nutrients and starting there with farmers is a hell of a lot easier, excuse my French. It is a heck of a lot easier than trying to push an agenda of a cover crop. So maybe try to get some guys to no-till some soybeans and get comfortable with that, but managing nutrients first, because right now we are over-applying. We've been over-applying for many years, and we cannot, Lance, I'm going to steal this from you. You cannot rely on the same soil tests that got us into this situation to get us out of this situation. And unfortunately, in Illinois, where they're looking at the 4R strategy, they're taking advantage of it when you're looking at, hey, your soil test levels are low and you need to build it up. If your soils can't hold it, where do you think it goes? That's a problem. And only one person makes money on that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Thanks for all the promo there, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, I know. I guess the thing I would tell you is I want to ask you guys a question to answer this question. By show of hands, raise your hand if you think that you're an expert in anything. I would argue everybody raise your hand. There are so many people floating around out there that say are experts in this and experts in that, right? What does it take to be an expert? You just have to know one thing that nobody else does. So my question back to you is, who knows your farm better than you? Is it Dr. Jerry Hatfield, Iowa State, when he was there? Is it me? Is it your agronomist? Is it your fertilizer salesman? Is it your seed guy? You. You are on your farm every single day, except for those days you sneak away to come to a conference like this. So you are the expert. And if you start to believe that and start just applying other pieces of information that you pick up along the way and apply them to your farm, that will really change how you feel. I've got a grower that lives right next to me. He does not understand. He will not turn on his irrigation until he has an agronomist tell him, turn on your irrigation. He will not put a seed in the box to plant until somebody tells him it's time to plant. It's like, you've been doing this for 30 years. You know your farm better than anybody else. Now, you might have to argue, for you younger farmers, you might have that argument with your father or granddad, right? But you got to start thinking that way, because everybody's looking for that outside validation. And I'm not taking anything away from what we can offer, what these guys can offer, but you got to kind of stick your chest out a little bit and say, I know this farm better than you do. Just because you work someplace or you've got a degree doesn't mean anything.
You know, I'd add on to that just a little bit, and it's kind of scary when you look at the future of agriculture and the BTOs out here that get really big and they're not actually in the field, and they have somebody else. It's just a hired man sitting in the tractor. But now when we start talking about autonomous tractors and stuff like that, we get further removed from that land, and that's scary.
I'm going to ask one last question, and then Taylor's going to wrap us up with a call to action. But this is for all of us. If you could add a topic you want discussed more at next year's Big Soil Health, what would it be? And this is for the audience or for you. So I hope someone's taking notes for me, maybe. I think someone is. But yeah, what is one topic you'd like us to discuss more next year? Let's start with the audience, yeah.
Sure. It's my first conference, so I didn't know what to expect, but as a cattle producer, it's easy. Livestock integration.
Okay. Livestock integration. There you go. There's one over here.
Organic in soil health, because we have a whole different set of tools.
Someone organic and soil health?
I've got one.
I'm listening.
Farm managers, bankers, absentee landowners.
That would be awesome. There we go.
As someone leading a grant called Regenerating Soil and Community that focuses on serving underserved farmers, including, and perhaps especially given the population, women landowners and operators. I would love to see, and Sophia here is partnered on that as well, what contributions have had, are happening, and can happen that can be coming from women, and perhaps a double X sitting on that stage with y'all, double X chromosome.
Best idea yet. Anyone else? Who else have we got here? I see one in the back.
I've got a microphone, Seth. It's dangerous.
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. I have taken kind of a hard pivot onto human health and how what we grow and how we grow it, no matter what it is, affects human health. With the recent election and everything that possibly will change, I have a lot of hope that we're going to leave a legacy of health for our children and our children's children. So talking about the tie between food, what we produce on our farms, and how that feeds the people around us in community. I know a lot of people are corn, soybean people, and that's fine. But I live in an area where I have corn and soybean growers and also cattle growers, and we're a food desert. And we're killing our kids and our kids' kids. So, okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Health and nutrition. Very good. Who else? Again, going once, going twice. I'm going to turn it over to the panel for a quick end-up of any comments they have for next year or closing comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Taylor. All right. Thoughts, closing comments, anything you want?
I really appreciated that last comment there about the health component of all of this, because that's in the end is, yeah. Along those lines, I've always been curious, like I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, so what crops will grow? What are my other options at my situation where I'm at? So, yeah, I just, if this is your first time here, like I said, take advantage. Like this is a really unique opportunity of all the shows and everything that I get to see and do. The interaction, the atmosphere that's been set up here for the interaction amongst everybody. Why this one's kind of head and shoulders above that. So I appreciate everybody letting us in here to play and take advantage of that.
First of all, everybody needs to realize that if you're a farmer, rancher, everything you produce is food. It doesn't matter where it goes, it's food, and if we start treating it like food, it'll be a whole lot better for everybody. So keep that in mind. And that's been essentially my journey on this whole thing, and that's where it's culminating in what Emily and I are working on in building community, because we need to restore farmers to their families. We need to restore rural communities to their place in our nation of places that kids can come back to and have opportunities. And that happens through community and supporting each other. Because even though we're opposite ends of the country, that doesn't mean we're still not neighbors, thanks to social media and all those things. So take advantage of that. Reach out to people, and somebody reaches out to you. Recognize that call for help and support them, because we're in an industry where we're killing ourselves because we're beside ourselves alone, and we need to be together, and this is a place that we can do that.
Amen. The one piece, and I'll go back to that because it's become a fascinating topic to me, and that's the whole linkage between soil health, plant quality, human health. I'm spending a lot of time lately with dietitians and medical doctors, and they've become to realize that maybe we need to be paying much more attention to what's going on in the soil and how our food is really affecting human health. So that's a fascinating topic. Is there a lot of moving parts to that? But I think it's something that you all need to understand, is that here's a linkage that can help promote how we produce our food and how we even handle our food as it moves off the farm.
So me and Liz work pretty hard to put this conference on every year, picking speakers. I heard what you said. Y'all all have the opportunity, even if you didn't want to share with the general group, she's going to send out an email, and everyone that comes to this conference has the opportunity to write in what was good, what was bad, what do you want to see next year. And we really do go through those. I mean, we probably spend a week, if not 2 weeks, after the first of the year in January, that me and her will be on the phone lining up speakers for next year's conference. So in all reality, I bet you we get 20 back a year. That's it. There were 300 plus people here. So that's less than 10%. So when y'all leave here, if you want to learn about something else, if you want to know about a certain type of, what Ann was talking about, food having a health implication, we can try to line up those speakers. It's no guarantee that they have availability, but those are things that we work on, and we work on pretty hard. So take the time, fill out the questionnaires, and send them back in. It takes 5 minutes.
So I guess I want to first off just thank Russell and Liz for all their hard work and dedication to this. And really, I just want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming and taking time out of your week to be a part of this and learn and interact with people and build new networks with others. I mean, it's kind of humbling when you're up here and you're looking out across, like Russell said, 300 some people, when 5-10 years ago there wouldn't have been 20 people here, you know. So
Damn hippies.
all these hippies are running around and hugging trees, I guess. But yeah, that guy right there. Yeah, he says he's raises cows, but we know he doesn't eat beef. But no, seriously, I don't know. It's fun to learn stuff and appreciate everybody I've worked with personally, and I've had the opportunity to meet in the past, and just continue to build these relationships and learn. If you quit learning, you're basically ready to die. You're going backwards. So.
Yeah, that's all really good stuff. It is humbling. I've been doing this a long time. Like, you know, a lot of these guys, they travel all over and they get a chance to do this. I love seeing other people's perspectives, bring in other speakers and everything. But I think the one thing that most of the conferences I attend, the one piece it's really missing, and it's not because they're not welcome, it's because we just can't get them here. We need more university people here. We need more government, NRCS, USDA. We need more of those people here. Randy and I were talking about that this morning. And, you know, Russell and I'll say, you know, Russell and I like to kind of bash on the universities a little bit. Hey, they did start it. They started the war. Now we're just a part of it. But but I say that, but there's so many wonderful people, and I'm not just saying that because Jerry's sitting up here. There are a ton of wonderful people within those systems, but they're too afraid to stand up and say something because they get ostracized, just like there's so many great farmers that are afraid to do something because they don't want to get ostracized, right? So we need to invite them in, and the people that are there, and bring them in and show them what this is about, because it's really hard to sit there and just stand behind the steel curtain of the university, right? I know Keith, and I'll mention it because Keith was here a little while ago. And what did I do 2 weeks ago when we were in Arkansas? We had a couple really great extension agents. We had a couple really great ag-based people out of University of Arkansas and Arkansas State. But I got asked a question, point blank. Why does the University of Arkansas always come back with such high fertility recommendations? Because everybody down here eats that up. I said, well, 85% of the funding for the soil lab comes from Helena. We got to break that chain, right? We got to get people out away from that so they can really see what the impact is. So I'd love to see that. If you've got somebody you work with, NRCS people, you know, absentee landowners, great. But if you've got anybody that can help with that policy change and help you understand your perspective, bring them here. Get them to these conferences. I'd love to see more of that.
It's a great way to close. A big thank you to our panel. Big thank you to Liz and Taylor and everyone, folks. And then we'll get on to Taylor and a call to action. So thank you very much.
And here's Taylor.
Here I am. Okay, we've arrived. Is Liz Haney floating around here yet? I know she was taking care of some stuff. That's okay. Hopefully she rolls in. So,
Hey, thanks for DJing.
you're welcome.
Did a good job.
This is my birthday party. No, it's serious. It is a privilege to be here. It's certainly a privilege to get to support this event. And I'm just so humbled to know and work with farmers. You know, before I get to a call to action, I feel like I would be remiss to not acknowledge just the reality of how hard it is to farm, especially right now. We heard it over and over again this week that margins are tight. Risk is, potentially the end of farming any one year. And now we're asking you to change and fix the soil and fix the climate, all in the midst of farmers often being critiqued and pushed and prodded. That's the backdrop to all of this. So thanks for showing up and being open-minded to trying something new. And you've heard me say it a bunch this weekend, but the whole point of this community is to try and take some of the risk and the pressure and loneliness out of that. So thanks for being here. And that's really the biggest call to action, is to stay connected. Not everybody is uber networker and wants to be in big groups. But hopefully if you met somebody here, you stay in touch or you make a point to connect with them next time you see them. All these speakers put their phone number and email out. That's a serious thing. Take advantage of these resources. They'll answer any question that you have or connect you to someone who can help you. And keep learning, keep asking questions. You know, that's the journey, is just to keep going. So I think that's all I have. Again, we're so glad to have you. Please fill out the survey that Liz is gonna send out. We'd love feedback about this year. We'd love thoughts about next year. Soil Regen does other events throughout the year in different communities, so stay in touch if you wanna see us before then. And I think without that, any last words, Seth?
Everyone drive safe, and my idea is we're bringing a tattoo artist in next year so we can all try something new.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Have
Thank
a great
you.
trip. You're the best. Merry Christmas.